My name is John Small, and on this episode, I'm going to talk a little bit about my small family, their connection and time here on Cape Cod, and the research I've been doing. Back at that time, it was actually known as Pamet. The towns of Truro and Provincetown weren't incorporated yet, but these were the earliest tracings of the small family. My 8th great-grandfather, Edward Small, arrived in America with his son Francis. Now, it's believed that Francis was about 7 years of age, and Edward came over with his son, and it was about 1632. They initially settled into Maine and remained there for several years. Most of Francis' life was actually in Maine, and Francis, in his later years, about 1700, moved to the area of Truro to live with one of his sons who had moved to Cape Cod. And Truro and Provincetown hadn't been incorporated in 1700, so the area was still known as Pamet. And each generation from Francis onward lived in the Truro area. Francis to his son Samuel Small to his next son Francis, and then Francis to his son Isaac. Now, in doing the research, I found out that Isaac Small owned about 55 acres of the highland area of Truro, and this was in the late 1700s. And it was during that time that George Washington was president, and he had appointed someone to look to the areas of the East Coast and to find out where lighthouses were most needed. So it was my 3rd great-grandfather, Isaac Small, that was contacted for the area of land that he lived in the highlands, which, are pretty high up above the Atlantic Ocean, and was a good vantage point for ships that would be coming in. There had been some shipwrecks off the Highland coast, and they wanted to warn any vessels coming over from England that there were dangerous, areas in the water there. So they asked Isaac if he would be willing to sell some acreage of his land to the government for the lighthouse to be built, and he agreed to that. So Isaac ended up selling 10 of his 55 acres to the government for, at that time, $100. And then for an additional $10, he gave them a right of passage through his property, through his farmland. And in doing all this, they realized Isaac had this property. He was profitable. He is making a good living. The proximity that he was living on allowed him to be a lighthouse keeper. And they asked him if he would be willing to do that, and he agreed. So in 1797, on November 15th, Isaac Small climbed up the 45-foot octagonal. It was an old wooden lighthouse, and just before sunset, he lit the 15 spider lamps, which are open containers with wicks, and that was the first evening of the Highland Lighthouse, the first lighthouse on Cape Cod, and he was the first lighthouse keeper, and he kept that position until 1812. So a good long time that he remained a lighthouse keeper. After his passing, the land where the lighthouse is located went to one of his sons, James, and to one of the other sons, which is my 2nd great-grandfather, Colonel Joshua Small. The land nearby, the farmland, went to him. Again, more generations continued, and my grandfather, Willard Small, also grew up in the Truro area, actually on a place called Ocean Farm. And there's many other small relatives and descendants of the original, Francis, who came here. And it's an amazing story. A lot of this story I didn't know about. I think part of what I've learned is, as we dig into our family, we find pieces of stories, pieces of history that we never could have imagined until we do a little bit of research. In speaking with people, I always encourage them, if you're interested in looking into your family, go into the genealogy site, use the internet. There's so much information out there now that we can all be connected through records, documents, and deeds that are are recorded and much easier to access now than they were even 20, 30 years ago. So the takeaway from all this is if you have a passion and an interest in your own family and your genealogy, go for it. Look into it. We all have an interesting story to tell. We're all here today because of choices our ancestors made, their years of hard work, their struggles, their ingenuity, their creativity, their will to survive. Those were tough times years back, even getting to this country, especially if it was in the 16, 17, 1800s. Voyages were not as safe and as quick as they are today. So I hope you'll all continue along on this channel, focusing on my small family ancestors, documenting each one individually, and I hope that will find some interest for you all to listen to. I hope it can be inspiring, and I hope you're all inspired to do your own family research. It's just amazing what you can find out. I hope you enjoyed that video. I hope to be putting up a lot more about my family and their roots here on Cape Cod. If you enjoyed this video, just give a thumbs up below, leave a comment if there's more information you'd like to know about my family. I've been here on Cape Cod, small family since the early 1700s, and I have ancestry also that goes back to Stephen Hopkins and his daughter Constance Hopkins, so going back about 400 years. I will be putting up a lot more videos on the family and on my take on things here on Cape Cod. Just hit the subscribe button down below if you would like to get notifications. There's also a little bell you can hit and it says get notifications. And there's a like button. You can leave a comment, and hopefully we'll be putting up a lot more videos like this. And I also have art tutorial videos and a whole process of videos about my journey into decluttering. As you can see around me, I've got quite a few things, but if you could see in front of me, I have a lot more things. So I'm going to have videos about decluttering and organizing spaces and living more peacefully. So tune in, subscribe, and I will see you all soon. Bye.